Today we're going to look at New Blue Effects Titler Pro 7. This was a new release just a week or so ago, and specifically we're going to look at a new feature of Titler Pro that allows you to show the alpha channel. And I can use this with some compositing techniques in Avid's Media Composer to allow me to take a Titler Pro title and actually do some motion tracking on background video. So let's get started. I'm going to bring up Media Composer here. I have a new project and I've set my project up as a Ultra HD resolution. I'll just Control Shift equals here just to bring up the settings. This is actually Media Composer 2019.8. So you can see they have the new dockable panels and a bit of a new UI. Anyway, I'll look at the format here in the settings panel. We're at 2997 progressive Ultra HD resolution. And I have a short clip here that I'm just going to pull down into the timeline. I've got it marked off as a 5-second clip that we're just using as a placeholder right now. I'm going to Control Y to add a new track. Now I'm going to go into the Effects workspace. And we're going to just search for Titler. There's Titler Pro, and I'm just going to drag and drop it onto this filler. I'm going to open up the library here, and we'll just grab one of their samples here. This is quite nice. Now, one of the changes that they've made in Titler Pro 7 is that you now have to save each of your titles off to a file, which I submitted a support ticket on this because I don't really like the fact that you now have to save it to a file, but they responded to my support request by explaining that because they now also save the cache right beside your titler file, this becomes a very efficient way to pre-cache your titles. So we'll see how that works out. The jury's still out, but so far I've actually quite liked some of the changes that they've made here. They're quite good. So I'm just going to select this. I won't bother making any changes right now to their default, but we'll give this a name that's useful for our demo here. And I'll just save that. Now I really am not going to be using this video footage. I put it in here as a placeholder because it gives me an easy way to come up with a 5-second sequence. And there's our title over top. So back in the effects, you'll notice that there's an option here to show alpha. When I click that, we're now looking at just the alpha for this effect. And I'm going to make use of this by generating alpha media and then using Media Composer's matte key effect, which also has motion tracking. So we'll take a look at this in a moment. I'm going to disable the V1 track because I really want to save out 2 versions of this title. So I'm going to, in this version, I'll just do a mix down of just the video at an Ultra HD resolution. I could increase the quality of this for the sake of the titling, but for this tutorial I'll just leave it at LB. Okay, so we've mixed down this 5-second version of the raw title, and now I'm going to click the Show Alpha because I want an alpha version of this as well. So another mix down of the video, same resolution of course. Okay, now we'll go back to the editing workspace and I'm going to create a new sequence. And I'm going to drag this same clip onto the V1 track. And now I'm going to Control Y to create two new video tracks because the built-in matte key effect requires 3 tracks. So Control Y, 1, 2. All right, so we put our background material on V1, and then I'm going to take the first mix down, which is the color version. This is going to be our foreground component, so I'm going to drag that onto V2. So there's our foreground component. And then I'm going to take our matte and drag that onto V3. And I'm holding the control key down. As I drag it over, it'll snap over to the beginning of that track. Okay, so this little button that I'm clicking here allows us to monitor each of the tracks. So I'll just drag it into here. So the top track is the matte, and the next track down is our actual title, and finally the background color. All right, so this is a good starting point. I'm now going to go back into the effects mode, and we'll just type in the word matte and come up with Avid's own matte key effect. All right, this is it right here. I'm just going to drag that on top. Now, there's a couple of things we have to do. The matte from Titler Pro 7 is actually inverted compared to what Media Composer expects. So I can just click the invert key. So there we are. The reason I'm using the matte key is because it actually has some built-in tracking. This is the tracker tool right here. Let's do some tracking of this, and then I'm going to also promote this to a 3D version so that we'll be able to track both rotation and position. Now I'm just going to slide this over a little bit because I'd like to place this new blue title right about here, but I'm going to have it track the background. And you can see how the camera is wobbling a little bit. So I'd like to track a couple of spots on that tree behind the title, and that will actually allow me to move this title up and down and rotate it with the camera motion. Now this is obviously a somewhat contrived example, but it makes it simple for doing the tutorial. So first off, I'm going to bring up the tracking tool. And here is the first tracker, which I'll place, let's just say right about there for argument's sake. And I'm going to, the tracking tool is over here, let me bring it a little bit centered. I'm going to generate an additional tracking tool, because in order to track rotation, we actually need 2 points. So here's the second point, and let's just put it over, we could just put it right here actually. So with these 2 tools selected, I'm going to start tracking, and it's automatically repositioned the time mark to the beginning. And I'll click this button to start tracking. If I only wanted to track one of these at a time, I can actually disable tracker 1, for example, and this would then just track 2. But we're going to track both of them at once. It's reasonably fast. I'll jump ahead to the end of this tracking for the sake of the tutorial. Okay, our tracking's done. I'll close the tracker. And now for the position tracking, I want to track the X and Y, and I'll select one of the trackers. I'll just pick either one would be fine to move the X and Y position. Now we'll come back here and we'll see how this is now tracking. It's not playing all that smoothly, but it's actually tracking the X and Y position. But we have some rotation we'd like to get rid of, and this particular version of the matte key effect doesn't have rotation. However, if I click this little button here to promote it, you'll see that suddenly we have a number of different entries that can be tracked and modified, including 3-dimensional roll, pitch, and yaw. So this was the foreground control that was in our previous version of this, but now we've promoted it to a 3D matte key. And here's our rotation, and under our rotation tracking, I'm going to pick both of the 2 trackers that we just created. So I'll pick point A, the first tracker, and it will automatically fill in, knowing that it needs a second tracker, it'll automatically fill in the second tracker that's available. If I'd had 3 trackers, I could come in here and pick one of the others. Now I'll just drag this back and we'll play this through, and you'll see it's subtle, but you'll see the tracker itself rotate the New Blue Effects title. Now I'm coming back into the edit workspace again. And I can use the J and, well, the J, K, and L keys. I'm just going to play it backwards. And then I'll play it forwards again. And basically it's caching this into memory, so I'm getting an ever-increasing performance of the real-time playback. Now I'm going to Control-Shift-F to go to full screen. And we'll play with the J, K, L keys again. And this gives you a pretty good idea of it actually sticking very nicely to that bush. So this is a great example of how you can use the Mat key with the new ability to easily generate an alpha channel out of Titler Pro. This lets you do things like scaling, rotating. You can have it follow and track some object in the scene very easily, whereas previously you could probably do this by finessing the title a little bit in some color treatment and try to extract an alpha channel out of it, but it was extremely tedious. This new feature of Titler Pro 7 is absolutely fantastic. It's one of the things that bothered me about Titler Pro was you can create some very nice titles easily, but as soon as you wanted to integrate those into a composition, it became quite difficult. So I think that's as far as we'll go with the tutorial today. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. If you have enjoyed it, like and subscribe. That's always useful. I don't have very many subscribers, but you know, over time that will change. It's been a long time since I've done a tutorial, so hopefully this one will catch someone's interest. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.
Doing what you